Somewhere deep in the past, tens of thousands of years ago, a young teenage girl experienced something completely unfamiliar. She looked down and saw blood. She didn't know what it meant. Nobody had prepared her. There was no explanation, no person she could ask, and no guide telling her what was happening. And the incredible thing is this: that same moment happened to almost every woman who has ever existed. It is one of the most common human experiences in history, yet somehow it remains one of the least discussed. Most history books barely mention it. So today, let's finally talk about it. First, we need to understand the biology behind it, because it explains almost everything. Puberty is not simply the moment someone grows older. From an evolutionary perspective, the human body is constantly making decisions. One of the biggest questions it asks is, does this body have enough energy and resources to safely support a pregnancy? In the 1970s, researcher Rose Frisch suggested that a girl's body needed to reach a certain level of stored energy before menstruation could begin. She proposed a body fat threshold of around 17%. Later studies adjusted and debated those exact numbers, but the main idea remained important. Puberty is not controlled only by age. It is also controlled by available energy. The body is basically checking its own fuel supply before deciding that reproduction is possible. Which leads to a fascinating question. When did prehistoric girls actually experience their first period? The answer might surprise you. Today, in many well-nourished societies, the average age for a first period is around 12 or 13, but studies of traditional hunter-gatherer communities show a different pattern. Anthropologist Nancy Howell studied the Kung people of the Kalahari, a society living a traditional lifestyle. She found that girls often experienced their first menstruation much later, around the age of 16. Why? Because survival required enormous amounts of energy. Daily movement was intense. Food availability was unpredictable. Diets were often lower in calories. The body had to prioritize survival first. All of those factors could delay the point when the body decided it had enough resources for reproduction. So it is reasonable to believe that many prehistoric girls experienced puberty later than modern teenagers, not earlier. Now imagine a 16-year-old girl thousands of years ago having her first period for the first time. Here's the truth. We have no idea exactly what she thought. There are no written records, no diary, no ancient message saying, "Day 1, I am confused about what is happening." Anyone claiming to know her exact emotions is simply making assumptions. But researchers can study more recent traditional societies and see how different cultures have treated this important moment. And what they found is interesting. In many societies around the world, a girl's first menstruation was not treated as something to hide. It was often recognized as a major life event. Some cultures created ceremonies. Some practiced periods of separation. Some celebrated the transition into adulthood. But the important point is this: it was usually acknowledged. It was not always viewed as a secret or something shameful. Did prehistoric humans react in exactly the same way? We cannot know for certain, but it does reveal something important. The idea that menstruation must always be hidden is not a universal human tradition. It is largely a more recent cultural attitude. Now comes the difficult part for archaeologists. Discovering how prehistoric women managed menstruation is extremely challenging, and the reason is surprisingly simple. The materials they likely used did not survive. Anything soft and absorbent, like plant fibers, moss, or animal hides, naturally breaks down over time. Unlike stone tools or bones, these materials rarely survive thousands of years underground. So when someone confidently says, "This is exactly what prehistoric women used," they are usually making an educated guess, not describing a discovered artifact. There are no preserved prehistoric menstrual products sitting in museums. What researchers can do is study the materials people already used in daily life. Soft plants, moss, animal skins, and fibers were commonly used for things like wound treatment and other practical purposes. So it is logical to think they may have also been used during menstruation. But logical does not mean proven. A careful historian will always separate evidence from speculation. Once humans began writing things down, however, the story becomes much clearer. One of the oldest known medical documents discussing women's health is the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus from ancient Egypt, dating to around 1800 BCE. It contains information about menstrual problems, pregnancy, and contraception. Later, the Ebers Papyrus, from around 1550 BCE, also discussed different types of bleeding and medical observations related to women's health. This tells us something important. Thousands of years ago, Egyptian doctors already considered menstruation a legitimate medical topic worth recording. The Greeks and Romans continued expanding medical knowledge. A physician named Cyrannus of Ephesus, living around the 1st or 2nd century CE, wrote a major medical work called Gynecology. It covered topics like female anatomy, menstruation, childbirth, and contraception. He even suggested rest for women experiencing difficult periods, an idea that still sounds familiar today. So written evidence about menstruation goes back thousands of years. But physical evidence of ancient menstrual products remains extremely rare. Again, the reason is preservation. Cloth, plant fibers, and other soft materials simply disappear with time. Ancient writers sometimes mentioned absorbent materials, but historians remain careful because direct archaeological proof is limited. Many popular internet claims about ancient menstrual products sound convincing until you trace where they came from. Often, the evidence is much weaker than people realize. And that brings us to one of the strangest facts of all. The modern products people use today are incredibly new. The first commercially produced menstrual pad, called Lister's towels, appeared around 1896. But it failed. During the Victorian era, society considered menstruation so uncomfortable to discuss that many people were unwilling to openly buy or advertise such products. Then came an unexpected turning point. During World War I, nurses noticed that a material designed for treating wounds was extremely absorbent. That discovery helped inspire the modern sanitary pad industry. The modern tampon with an applicator was not patented until 1931 by Dr. Earl Haas. The product later became known as Tampax in the 1930s. Think about that. Humans have experienced menstruation for hundreds of thousands of years. But the convenient products many people consider normal today have existed for barely a century. For almost the entire history of our species, women handled menstruation with whatever resources they had available. They relied on knowledge passed between generations, local materials, and personal experience. And for most of human history, they did it with almost no public conversation. A biological process shared by half of humanity became one of history's quietest stories, and maybe that is what makes it so remarkable.